We're back, and we're talking about limiting birth hours. So, birth hours, okay? Everyone talks about doulas and shorter labors, but we very rarely talk about why. So, I'm gonna break it down for you. When you hire a doula, the work that you do before you get to your labor is what matters, right? Having them there during the birth is awesome for comfort measures, for reinforcement, for whatever it is that you need them there for. But the work that you do before you get to the labor and the birth is what is extremely important. That is the time for them to tighten your cape. Y'all know I love that quote. That's the time for them to identify what it is that you're afraid of and give you the information and give you the education to help alleviate those fears. When we alleviate those fears, you feel a little calmer, you feel a little more confident, and you go into your birth not feeling afraid of it or not feeling worried or concerned, but you go into it more confidently. When you go into it more confidently, the body is more relaxed. It's literally the difference between like doing a presentation. You do a presentation and you're really nervous and you're really fidgeting and you're really tense and you're holding pressure right here in your shoulders, or maybe it's very common for women holding the pressure right here in your pelvis, in the hip area, which is not where we need the pressure and the tension to be when we're trying to birth the baby. And so we tense up and we squeeze and we're squeezing and we're resisting birth. Unbeknownst to us, we have no idea this is happening. We're doing it unconsciously, just like you would be if you were giving a presentation and you would be saying, and you're doing these things and you have a weird twitch, or y'all know what I'm talking about. It's the difference between that and doing a presentation and feeling very calm and very relaxed and making eye contact and opening yourself up to the room and flowing, right? That word is important. So the body when you're afraid and the body when you're confident, there are differences. And statistics, research, whatever you want to call it, evidence, it shows that when you are not relaxed, when you do not feel supported, when you do not feel in control, you tense up. And then that's how you get into that fear, tension, pain cycle. It has been known to, and is known to, slow or stall labor. Okay? So having a doula combats that. It's not just the presence of the doula that makes the labor shorter. Wouldn't it be awesome if it was just like, oh, she's here now, labor's gonna be short? No, it's not that simple. It's more about the work that you guys do together prior to the labor, prior to the birth, so that you go into it more confidently, thus resulting in shorter labors. Okay? So when we're considering birth hours, birth time, labor time, now, I don't have any strong opinions about this. I say, do what you want to do. I say, hire whatever doula you want to hire. If you don't agree with the limitations of birth hours, don't hire that doula. If you could care less, open up your horizon. Maybe consider the doula that does limit his or her or their birth hours. Okay? Let me also say this. I probably have the perspective that I have because of my personal experiences, right? So to date, let's go back actually. My mother, the one who birthed me, when she tells me my birth story, or I should say our birth story, because we were both working together. When she tells me our birth story, she tells me that she was in labor for 11 hours, start to finish. She had what most people would call a bloody show. I refer to it as a birth show. She said her water did not break like it did in the movies. And she eventually made her way to the hospital. 11 hours total from the bloody show to me being born. She also gave birth to me in the hallway. So this was back when there was a different room for labor and delivery. Nowadays, you labor and you deliver in the same room. I mean, you have triage, but once you're admitted, you labor and you deliver in the same room. So as I understand it, she's telling the nurse, and hey, I really feel like I need to push. The nurse is telling her, you're a first-time mom. You're going to be here for a while, etc., etc., etc. Now, I'm not upset with the nurse. The nurse is just doing what she's been taught. The nurse is also reflecting what she's seen. But birth looked different 29 years ago. We're trying to actively make a change in the birth community, in our birth culture. And I personally do not subscribe to the whole you're a first-time mom, you're going to have a long labor thing. It irks my soul. I've seen first-time moms have labors that were 12 hours and less. I've seen it with my own two eyes. So, neither here nor there. I digress. She's constantly saying, it's time for me to push. And they're saying, you can't push yet. The doctor's not here. Guys, seriously. If it's time to birth the baby, I'm sorry. I am sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Doctor. But if it's time to birth a baby and a woman's body is literally having that natural explosive reflex where her body is literally pushing the baby out, it's going to be very hard to stop her from, like, what is she going to do? Squeeze it? Anyway, so, somebody's having a good time today. I don't know if you guys can hear the motorcycle, but anyway, she tells the story that as she was going from the labor to the delivery room, she was like, all right, okay, but what do I do if I feel like I need to push? And the nurse must have just was like, fine, push. And she pushed me out in like 1 or 2 pushes on the table. I hate to say table, on the bed, as they were taking her from the labor room to the delivery room. And so, my view and my experience with birth is a little bit different. You might have a different experience. Your birth story might be different. You may have some birth trauma from your previous birth. And so it might take a little more unpacking to get you to that calm, comfortable state of birthing, but it is possible. I also was going to say that to date, I've been a doula for a couple of years now, and to date, I have not been with the client more than 7 hours. And the majority of those, and by majority, I mean all of the births except for 2, were 3 hours or less. I kid you not, I showed up to the hospital one time. I tell the story a lot to my hypnobirthing clients. Showed up to the hospital one time, and mom was laboring on the floor. She got up on the bed. 20 minutes later, the baby was there. Literally from the time that I parked my car to the time the baby was born, 20 minutes had lapsed. And so birth doesn't have to be long, guys. It doesn't have to be. I'm not saying it never will be. I'm not saying just because you hire a doula that you won't have a longer labor. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is I promise to give you guys varying opinions and unbiased advice. So here we are. Perspective. If you do not limit labor, if you just have a package that says, I'll be there for you, right? The pro is that people feel comfortable with that. A con is that you have set no boundaries for what you can do within a certain limit of time. And what I mean is exhaustion, okay? So if you are with a family and their labor is longer, you should have a contingency plan. You should have at least something in your contract, or at least, some sort of agreement that says, hey, if I get exhausted to the point where I feel like my presence is no longer serving you, I am going to call a backup doula, or I'm going to call out, or I'm going to need to take a break to eat or take a nap or walk or just get some fresh air or whatever. You should have something in there that says, hey, this is what I need, right? If you don't, you run the risk of not being able to provide the best quality of care. And I think that's what's important here. Are you going to be able to provide the best quality of care after X amount of hours? On the flip side of that, if you do limit your birth hours and you say, hey, here's what's included in this package. If we go beyond this, we'll need to stop and we'll need to evaluate whether or not I'm still in the best position to serve you. And that could mean, hey, I need a break. Hey, I need to call a backup doula or whatever. All those things should be discussed with your parents prior to labor and birth, okay? It could also mean, you know what, we've gotten to 12 hours and I feel fine. So if you want me to stay, then here's, the hourly rate. Not obviously, but you should have discussed that with them prior to. Here's the hourly rate. I will remind you guys every hour, or I will remind you every 2 hours, or whatever you guys agree to. There's also the idea of, besides exhaustion, there's the idea of value. There's the idea that, yes, I'm a doula, and yes, I'm passionate, but also this is my job. And so, as with anything, here's what's included in the package. If we want to go beyond that, then this is what's going to be included. Or consider this: if you want to be a doula that limits your birth hours, have a package that you think is more affordable, or that you think is a price that would equate the number of hours that you're willing to work. And then add an unlimited package. Add a package that says, hey, if you pay this amount extra, then I'll stay for as long as you like me to. But I still think exhaustion and quality of care is the most important. And so this is the only thing that I have a strong opinion about here, is that it may take you a couple of births to figure out when you get to that point where you get a little delirious, or where you can't keep your eyes open anymore. And keep in mind too that just because you're on call doesn't necessarily mean that your life stops. It's not like you go on call for 2 or 3 weeks and you're just resting as much as you can and staying as hydrated as you can until you get the call, because life isn't like that. Life is like, oh, I just went to sleep, but now I'm getting back up again to go to this birth, right? So based on the research that I've done and based on some of my personal experience, those are the 2 main reasons why someone would want to add birth hours or wouldn't want to add birth hours. And it comes down to exhaustion and value. So whatever you decide, honestly, I think if your intentions are good, if your intentions are good, and if you believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. If your intentions are good and you believe in yourself, do you, boo, and you will be fine. From a parent's perspective, if you took all this information in and you're still like, I ain't doing it, look for a doula that doesn't limit their birth hours, or look for a doula agency. Doula agencies are nice, and they typically don't limit their birth hours because they work on a rotational basis, so you sort of, I'm not going to say you lose out, because every agency is different. So you may not get the doula that you like the best when you met all the doulas or whatever, but the agency has a quality of care. They have a standard. All the doulas are working to that standard. And if a doula gets tired, there's guaranteed somebody that's going to be able to tag in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But as for the doulas out there who are working independently, which most of us are, if you decide that you're going to hire a doula that does have limited birth hours, don't be afraid to ask. Talk about it. Make it an open conversation. And doulas, don't be afraid to break down what your package looks like, or what it might look like if you do go over that time. But I also will leave you with this note: focus on what you want. So if you don't want to be in labor for 24 hours, don't focus on being in labor for 24 hours. Focus on being in labor for 12 hours or 10 or 14, whatever number you have in your head. Focus on that. And if you meditate on it. And if you pray on it. And talk to your baby about it. There have been plenty of times where my parents have told their baby something, namely to come this week, and they didn't tell me. And I was like, oh, you in labor. Damn, okay, on my way. Cool. And so, just bond with your baby. Have a conversation with your baby and say, hey, baby, we gonna do this. We're gonna do this thing nice and easy, and it's gonna be smooth. Okay, all right, I'm done, guys. Have a lovely day. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. Oh, this is my superhuman chart. This is not related to Moon Honey Doula, but I do think that it is extremely important that we feel the freedom, and that we have the license to be human, to feel, to cry, to fall down, to make mistakes, to have regrets, to be overwhelmed, whatever it is. And I think that's especially true as birth workers. I think it's true as people that support others. And I also think it's true as parents. So if you're interested, you'll have to visit my personal page for the link. Maybe I'll post something about it on my Moon Honey page as well. But these are my superhuman teas. Hope you like it. Thanks for watching.